Journalist Andy Ngo, for most of you are probably aware, he was brutally beaten yesterday by Antifa. What you may not know is that this was premeditated. For a while now, he's been receiving threats, death threats, etc. He's tweeted about them. So naturally, they targeted him. They attacked him several times. He's in the hospital right now, and it's being reported by several people, including, I believe, a lawyer who may be representing him, that he's suffering from a brain hemorrhage. This is a pretty serious attack. A lot of people don't understand that a single punch to the head can be lethal. It can be lethal. And especially when you get head trauma that results in a brain bleed. So we're lucky right now. This is all we're seeing. What you see on the screen is an image after he was attacked. Andy Ngo shot a live stream of himself explaining what had happened. Video emerged of a mob just piling on him, throwing things at him. Now here's where it gets crazier. Portland police are reporting the milkshakes they said they've received information that the milkshakes were laced with quick drying cement. Okay? Most people don't know this. Quick drying cement is a caustic substance. There was a video a long time ago that was like a news story on Reddit. Some kid put his hands in cement thinking it would be funny, and he burned his skin off. What people don't seem to realize is that quick drying cement has creates an exothermic reaction. Not only is it hot, but it's also alkaline. It's got a very high pH. It can cause chemical burns and actual heat burns. I wonder why Antifa would be putting quick drying cement in their milkshakes. I said on Twitter, this is particularly nefarious because a small amount would go unnoticed. And the first thing you do when you search concrete or cement burns, they warn you. Small amounts can be dangerous because they seep into your boots, they get in your clothes, and you don't notice the burns until it's too late. It's like boiling frogs. The burn is slow and gradual, not enough to shock the system, and then when you take your shirt off, your boot off, you've got chemical burns. Now, look, when I don't take the police at their word, right? The police tweeted they received information. There's quick drying cement in the milkshakes. I have no reason to believe there's a grand conspiracy involving the police to lie and frame Antifa. It sounds like something Antifa would do. Regardless, even outside of the cement, a bunch of people surrounded and beat Andy Ngo. Now, a lot of people on Twitter talking about this are highlighting very, very important issues. The first thing I want to say is that Andy has raised at this point, it was Michelle Malkin, I believe, put up a GoFundMe. He's raised over $75,000. Good. So to everybody who's donated, you guys rock. Awesome. Some people have pointed out, and we'll get more into this, that this is the greatest thing for his career. Particularly, Charlotte Clymer saying, this is the greatest thing that could have happened to his career. You know it, I know it, he knows it, we all know it. The only reason that this could be good for his career is because people who oppose you militant psychopaths will support him and defend him and make sure that you will not win. When you beat journalists, we will make sure those journalists' voice, that journalist's voice is louder because you will not silence them. It's just a Streisand effect. No, it's not good for someone's career that they're in the hospital overnight with a brain bleed. Okay, the only good that comes of this is when I and others highlight the issue, and then explain what's happening and give Andy an opportunity to explain what happened and why it happened. That's why it's good for his career, because people come to his defense. But these people on the left, what's really crazy here is, listen, another thing I tweeted. There are two insane groups of people, okay? The fringe far-right weirdos who want their ethno-state nonsense, who are violent. Look, you can hold nasty opinions. I don't care, if you're a communist, a full-on communist, as long as you're not violent. As long as you just want to sit around, talking to people and arguing for your ideas, you're welcome to do so. Even the crazy weirdos on the right, be a crazy weirdo. I'm not talking about the crazy weirdos with weird opinions. I'm talking about the violent crazies. But guess what? The right, the violent crazy ones, they're few and far between, and everyone hates them. Here's the difference with Antifa. They get defended in the press relentlessly. I've watched, in 2016, I watched an elderly couple be shoved to the ground, their hats ripped off their head and set on fire. And I said, hey, what's up with this? There was a man walking down the street and someone bashed him in the back of the head with a bag full of, I don't know what was in it. They said it was a bag of rocks. I don't know if that's true, but it left his ear all bloody. Where was the press? I got invited to Fox News on that day. What do we see later? We see Chris Cuomo, Don Lemon, We see these people on CNN saying, "Oh, but they're fighting against bigotry." It's like, dude, they're crazy psychopaths wearing all black, throwing bricks through windows, and beating people. You know what's really funny is there are people who are like, "Tim, why are you calling out Antifa? You've changed." Google search my name in 2012, and you will find me making the exact same statement today that I made during Occupy Wall Street, that the violent psychopaths are disruptive and dangerous. I said it in no uncertain terms, and I say it again today. And this is what you get. A lot of people are highlighting Andy's identities. I have done this as well. I did it on Instagram, and I'll tell you why. I don't like identity politics, in the sense that I'll say this. Identity politics is a broad term that can be a good thing. What I don't like is identitarianism, policy based on identity. If the left goes around claiming they're fighting bigotry, and then a horde of white progressives beat the crap out of a gay Asian American journalist, how is that upholding their values? It's not. They're lying. I believe in real social justice. I do. I've made documentaries about it. I've made documentaries about refugees. And when these insane psychopaths, who all happen to be white males, talk about how white people are all bad but then beat minorities, you have to wonder what their priorities really are. And you know what? We all know this. The people on YouTube who are pushing back against the media, we know this. Where's the media? Where is mainstream media? I'll tell you where they are. Defending Antifa. You know what's really, really funny? Let me see if I have the right tweet here. Steven Crowder tweets, Antifa attacks through the eyes of leftist MSM, he says. Journalist who was threatened but bravely covered an event anyway, and was then attacked and hospitalized with a brain bleed, snowflake. Mobs of cowards who brutally assaulted him, heroes. This is a tweet from Christopher Mathias. Christopher Mathias was linked to Antifa in a report by a guy named Ewan Lenahan. You now have people like Mike Stuchberry who openly and gleefully mocked Andy Ngo, who was violently attacked, potentially with a caustic chemical, who was put in the hospital with a brain bleed. Mike Stuchberry claiming it's a fictitious report. You have Christopher Mathias, who was connected to Antifa in this report, mocking Andy Ngo after he was attacked. Now, this was the first or second time. I'm not sure when this was. This wasn't the violent assault. Christopher Mathias deleted the tweet. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. But I checked the archive. Sure enough, his tweet is gone. The archive still exists, and I screenshotted it similar to this. He said, milkshakes have this special power of revealing how fascists and their enablers are giant effing snowflakes. Really interesting, Huffington Post, that you mocked this individual who is now in the hospital with a brain hemorrhage. Will the Huffington Post issue a statement or an apology? No. And this is the big problem with politics today. They say, Tim, you only talk about the left. Yeah, sure. Show me the right-wing outlet that's defending neo-Nazis violently beating people. I'm waiting. Oh, you mean the fringe wacko websites that we know exist anyway? I don't care about those. They're not mainstream. You mean the Huffington Post has a staff member who's verified, who celebrated and mocked somebody who was attacked, potentially with a caustic chemical, and then was later beaten? Yes, you cheer this on. That's what they do. And that's why it's so disconcerting to see the mainstream media celebrate this. Absolutely insane. Remember this tweet from Chris Cuomo? Let's not forget. A picture of World War II. And I love this photo for several reasons. World War II storming the beaches of Normandy. I believe that's what the photo is. Anti-fascists disrupting large gathering of white supremacists. During World War II, okay, in that era, miscegenation was illegal. You insane people. Okay, this is so insane. My grandfather, who was a World War II vet, married a woman he was not legally allowed to be with, and they had to hide it. Okay, so when you want to show a bunch of people from 100 years ago, back in the era of segregation and anti-miscegenation laws, what are you talking about? Now, look, I have nothing but respect for the World War II veterans. I understand times change, and our culture was very different. And this photo is the best of who we were. But I recognize it's not a good example of Antifa, unless you really want to claim that people from back in the World War II era when the country was like 90% white and you weren't allowed to cohabitate with people of a different race, you think that was a good time. And those, listen, the reason I'm bringing this up, this is a Freedom Tunes cartoon where Seamus makes this point. A bunch of SJW Antifa types bring a bunch of World War II soldiers to the future, and then they realize these people hold pretty culturally insensitive views, I'll say to say the least. Our society has evolved for the better since then. and I can respect that. I have nothing but admiration for those World War II vets, my grandfather included, and a lot of them are were not bigoted, racist, or whatever, but it was a different time. I understand that, and so I still think they did things that were good, fighting against the Nazis, but to act like they are in any way like Antifa today. Actually, I take that back. Antifa is a bunch of racists, so that's not surprising. So let's take a look at some other things that I think are important here. I'm going to refresh this page. This is a GoFundMe that was put up, less than around 12 hours ago, or maybe 15 hours ago? $74,159 of a $50,000 goal. Congratulations! You beat Andy Ngo, who was walking around taking pictures, and you paid his salary for a year. I'm sure now, like Charlotte said, it'll be great for his career, but only because we will have his back, because you people have lost your goddamn minds. Let's refresh this and see where we're at now. It's probably not going to go up that much, if at all. I just opened it. $76,259. It's going up fast. Good. I'm glad it is. We're doing an event on August 31st in the Philadelphia area. Andy will be a special guest. I'm hoping we can have him on a panel speaking about violence and the threats pointed in his direction. And it's really important for a few reasons. Andy Ngo, is my understanding, is gay. I don't know too much about him. But people are saying he's a gay Vietnamese American journalist, which means I believe he's the children of immigrants. He's a person of color, and he is LGBTQ, and it's Pride Month. Do you think the media is going to rush to the defense of, a gay child of immigrant person of color who was attacked? I doubt it. I really do. There's a story from ABC that I pulled up. Do they mention that he was in the hospital with a brain bleed? No, they mention that he claims he was attacked. Many of the outlets that have reported on it say Andy says he was attacked. There's video of him being beaten. But that's what the media does. So the only reason this was going to be good for him is because moderate individuals and conservatives, and even some liberals, the good ones that are still active today, are rallying around pushing back against violent extremists. But what do we get? We get a Huffington Post that celebrates this. We get Vox's Carlos Maza, who not even a month ago said milkshake them all. Congratulations. They were handing out milkshakes. There's a video of a truck where they're pouring milkshakes for people. And then they all started chucking those milkshakes at people. That's exactly why they were handing them out. There have been many arrests. I believe there will be many more. The Portland police said they're investigating. They want people to send them information. And there's a lot of videos and photos of people who don't even hide what they're doing. So long. Actually, I'll say one more thing too. We've got people in media who are still saying, well, the violence is wrong, but hey, you've got people from the New York Times saying it. Look, Brian Stelter condemned this. I think it was a bit half-hearted, but I appreciate that he came out and said, this is wrong, attacking the messenger. I hope the authorities get to the bottom of this. That's all I ask for. A lot of people are mad that Brian Stelter didn't say journalist. I really don't care how he frames it. I'm glad that he's calling it out. Jake Tapper called it out. I'm glad there are people at CNN willing to do this. But you know what that means? As much as I'm not a big fan of CNN, I'm very critical of Stelter and others, they still know where the line is, and they're willing to call out the bad. Chris Cuomo made a mistake defending them, so did Don Lemon. But at least there are some people in media, right? Now, here's the thing. Take a look at the people on the left in media who are providing excuses and defending what happened to Ngo in any way, saying things like, well, this kind of thing comes with the job. Is that a joke? But it really does show you where their allegiances are. They have to condemn violence because the public won't accept it, but they don't want to. Some people are claiming that Andy asked for it. Oh, he's a provocateur. He knows what he's doing. He's antagonizing on purpose, trying to get attacked. Sounds an awful lot like a she asked for it argument. So my response to this was, why don't we just teach Antifa not to hit? Right? They should know better. No, the reality is Antifa's going to hit, and they shouldn't. And it is true that for someone like Andy, who has been receiving these threats for a long time, here's on June 6th, he posted audio of someone who left a voicemail for him, getting all of these spam phone calls because somebody apparently doxed him. So he knew it was possible. He did. That doesn't mean he shouldn't do his job. And it doesn't mean it's his fault. And so I think it's a really great point to bring up. You can't teach Antifa not to hit. They're just going to do it. And when they do, we will call them out because they're monsters. They're psychopaths with delusions of grandeur who think they're actually fighting Nazis. But what are they really fighting? A gay Vietnamese journalist who, my understanding, is like 5'5". Oh, congratulations. This man was walking around your town with his cell phone, and that warranted beating the crap out of him and giving him a brain bleed. So I pulled this up too, just because I want to highlight WebMD. Brain hemorrhage. It's a type of stroke. It's caused by an artery in the brain bursting and causing localized bleeding in the surrounding tissues. It could result in a hematoma. They say what causes bleeding in the brain? Head trauma is the most common cause of bleeding in the brain for those younger than age 50. So I hope it's not serious. But with head injuries, especially head trauma, there could be long-lasting problems that Andy might face. And so I wish him the best. I'm grateful that people are willing to support a journalist who has been attacked. Look, I've been critical of some of the things Andy's written in the past. I for the most part, it's not like I track everything he does, but I'm critical of even people like, I've criticized Dave Rubin, I've criticized Sargon, because we're adults, and that's what makes the conversation robust. I did a whole video where I talked with Dave about some of the criticism around him. I'm not an expert on why people don't like Dave. But I've openly talked with, several people, and I often say everyone could do with a pie in the face, metaphorically, in the sense that, someone arguing against us and highlighting our flaws so we can improve ourselves. Not this. This is ridiculous. The point I'm trying to make is, by all means, criticize Andy, and there are people who engage in honest conversations with him, who criticize him, and we all get along at the end of the day. That's like most of us disagree on a ton of things. Whatever this moderate, rational group of people is from left to right, I don't know, peripheral to like the intellectual dark webs, the IDW periphery, there are many people who are willing to engage in good faith conversation even when they disagree. Andy is one of these people. I personally disagree with some of his stuff, but that's fine. But he was attacked violently. So I'm glad people are willing to support him, and I hope his medical bills aren't going to be that high. I hope this is enough money. You have to understand, $76,000 right now sounds like a lot of money. It is. It is a lot of money. But what happens if Andy has to have follow-ups every few months because of a recurring head injury, a chronic illness resulted from head trauma? It's possible. I know people who have to keep going to the hospital because of head injuries. They get headaches all the time, and it becomes very, very expensive. This might not be enough money. I don't know. Hopefully he's completely fine. Here's what I hope. I hope he's completely fine. I hope that within a couple weeks he's back at 100% and he's got some cash to help him just be comfortable. Because he deserves it. He was brave enough to go out when they hated him. But what did he ever do? Criticize them. That's what he did. Has Andy ever attacked him? No. They'll lie and claim he did, though, because they're insane. But I do have one more thing I want to highlight, because I don't want to make this video super, super long. Ian Miles Chong. Rose City Antifa, the group of anarchist militants responsible for organizing Saturday's protest in Portland, where Andy was assaulted, has posts celebrating his attack, and another begging for cash to pay for the bail money for the people who were arrested for violence. Rose City Antifa is a branded cell, okay? I've talked about branded Antifa cells before. A lot of people try to argue, you can't ban Antifa from Twitter because it's just an idea. No, there are branded cells. They have their own merchandise. You can buy their special little flower symbol t-shirts. Well, I don't know if you can actually buy them, but they wear them. And they organize these protests. Twitter could, but doesn't. Oh, but they banned the Proud Boys. Fine, I don't care. Ban the Proud Boys. Ban them too. Now, look, in the end, I don't want anybody banned. I don't want the Proud Boys banned. I don't want Antifa banned. And in fact, I'm actually glad Antifa wasn't banned. Because now you can see who they are. You can see that they celebrate. They've posted this photo of Gritty celebrating the attack on a gay journalist. Very progressive. A gay person of color was attacked. Very progressive. I don't think it matters that Andy is gay or a person of color or his political beliefs. None of that matters. I only highlight it to point out the hypocrisy to us. Some people have said it's pointless to do so because they don't care about hypocrisy. You're right. They absolutely don't. They shout racial slurs. They're white males. They don't care. But I'll tell you who does care. Regular people who are being lied to left and right by the media. When CNN goes on TV and says, well, look, they are fighting fascists. Are they now? Is beating a gay person of color fighting fascism? Sounds like fascism to me. I get it. Antifa aren't nationalists, so they're not authoritarian. But so they're not fascist, but they are authoritarian. And they're extremely violent. Plain and simple. So listen, we don't have to point out Andy's identities. We can leave that where it lies. But it is important to show the hypocrisy to people who don't know what's happening, because you have a willful, complicit media in the Huffington Post, in Vox, and even in CNN to a certain degree. I will absolutely throw some respect to Brian Stelter and Jake Tapper, who have called this out. I think Brian Stelter could do a little bit more. I doubt he'll run a segment on it, but you know what? We got a tweet from him. I'm happy. I am. I encourage good behavior. I don't discourage good behavior. So I would appreciate it if Brian did a little bit more and talked about the attack on journalists and the threat Antifa poses. And I want to say this. Journalists know that Antifa is dangerous. They know full well. They do trainings talking about the danger of being in protests. I'm certified by this international security agency. It's very expensive training these companies make you go through. And they tell you straight up, you are more, and this is hilarious, you are more likely to have your equipment destroyed and to be assaulted by the protesters than you are the police. We still see these leftist, NGO, nonprofit journalist type saying the police are more dangerous. No, they're not. Police have to be accountable. They're not always, but the public pressures them and it puts them in a bad position. So often, yes, police are restrained. I think there's a lot of circumstances where police do things that are bad and wrong, and they aren't held accountable. There's a video from Occupy Oakland where a cop lobs a flashbang grenade at a crowd of people trying to pull someone out who was hit in the head with some kind of a tear gas canister. I believe it was Scott Olson. Yeah, those cops did bad things. Those bad things happen. How often do we see police at riots breaking, really committing egregious acts? It happens. It does. And it's common enough to where it's alarming. How often do we see Antifa, black bloc anarchists, violent leftists committing extremist acts at protests? Basically all the time. Smashing windows, breaking cameras. And they tell you, during the trainings at Occupy Wall Street, the direct action, someone said, don't break their camera, it could pay your rent. And that's a common theme I've heard in some form or another. They've posted it online. They threaten people. They used to just rip your lens off, shatter your camera, and the journalists all know it. We've got videos of journalists being attacked. Even at one point, Vox did run a story about Antifa attacking journalists, surprisingly. But now what they do is they want to steal your gear. So, yeah, when you're in a protest, you're more likely to be attacked by a protester than a cop. Plain and simple. I've been on the ground at these riots, and I've been criticized heavily for being too close to the police. Some people are like, why won't Tim go where the protesters are? Yeah, a lot of the time I'm where the protesters are. I'm not going to go out anymore. My business model has changed, and now I'm actually hiring people to do more. It's complicated. But I've also stood next to and behind police, and they don't attack you. You stand in a crowd of Antifa, and you get the Andy No treatment. Plain and simple. So yeah, Antifa is more dangerous. These people are insane psychopaths with delusions of grandeur who think they're fighting in some la resistance. But the reality is they tend to be upper class white people who hate white people for some reason, and they're bored. So they're LARPing. Andy No is as far from a Nazi as you could probably get. I mean, the dude's gay for Christ's sake. But these people are genuinely thinking like, but he's a Nazi. Yeah, you're insane. You are insane. These people have no purpose. They're bored. And so they've created a fantasy world where they run around attacking people like they beat a gay person of color and then claim they're fighting to defend them. Man, you got brain problems. Plain and simple. I don't want to make this super long. I'm going to leave it there. Stick around. More videos coming. The next video will be at 1 p.m. You may have noticed I'm in the van. The power is out. So one of the great things about building this van is that the power was out following a storm, and I am able to continue working because I have my own independent power source. Isn't that fun? Stick around. Next video will be at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I will see you all in the next segment.